I just want to take a quick moment and say I'm going to share a little bit about our work here in Boston. We're a national organization based in Oakland, and I also brought with me one of our staff members as well as our families, which is Wandy Peguero and Lydia Ospina. So thanks so much for joining us, guys. And you guys can follow up and talk to them too. So I'm going to talk about a new approach on how to affect poverty and investing in communities. And to do that, I'm going to start talking a little bit about my own story. So I'm the youngest of 3 kids, and I'm the big-headed one up there. And my mom and my dad got married at the age of 19, had all 3 of us by the age of 22. My mom had the job of staying at home and taking care of us, and my dad had about 2 or 3 jobs to be able to provide for us. And you can imagine we're a working-class family struggling to make it on a month-to-month basis with some subsidies from the government. So my earlier memories are of making lines for food stamps and getting those that free health care at clinics. But little by little, we were making some progress, and we were also supported very much by a large community of extended family and friends that supported us. So although, I come from a very low-income family, I never considered myself or thought of myself as poor because we were rich in so many other places. And then my mom and my dad got divorced, and so things spun out of control, and we went into crisis. And so what little gains we had been able to do got wiped out quite quickly during the divorce. And my mom quickly tried to figure out a way to make us be able to move forward. She started school part-time, she worked part-time, as well as continued to care for us full-time. And the gains that she made were very small. She got very little support of that extended network as people chose sides. And again, my dad on the other side actually stopped a lot of his support of us during this time. At the same time, my aunt, her sister, went through the same thing, but they were upper income, middle income families, so they were able to really sustain the divorce. Actually, we relied on them a lot of the times to be able to get support, and it was one of the only sources of support that my mom had during this time. Then one day, my aunt actually got a crazy idea to move to Amherst, Massachusetts, because she was referred to it by a stranger at a grocery store, and so she did. She thought that would give her the best opportunity and the most choice to be able to move forward towards her education and a better life for her and her kids. My mom got inspired to do the same about 6 months later after talking to my aunt several times, getting the pictures and the letters about what was happening in Amherst. And so one day she picked us up from school and with all our stuff packed in the car, said, as long as nobody has a serious objection, we're leaving for Amherst tonight. Right, talk about choice and control, right? But we did, and what quickly happened is that, so there were 8 of us in a 2-bedroom apartment, and the connections that my aunt had made in that short time in Amherst, mostly Puerto Rican and Latino, came through our doors. They were like, so what do you guys need? Do you want to go back to school? There's this woman at the university who will walk you through the enrollment process. You want to do an after-school program for the kids? We do a dance troupe, and maybe they can join in and have something to do in the nights. You're going to need an apartment. There's this woman at local church that if she likes you, she'll co-sign an apartment for you. And so little by little, my mom was put in a position of choice to be able to find our way out of poverty, right? And what happened with my mom and my aunt is not unique. Other families came through our doors and sort of settled down in Amherst also and figure out a way to push through and gain their goals, right? And this has been seen in the African-American townships that formed after slavery, the Chinatowns all across this country, as well as Boston has a rich history of folks being able to find their way out by pulling together in community, whether it's the Vietnamese community in Dorchester or the Jewish community in Brookline. And so in a short span of time, I say short, about a decade, my mom was able to finish her education, get a master's, get a job, buy a house, and get 2 of her 3 kids into college, right? And now she was terribly crazy and very stubborn to be able to do that much in that short of time. But most families put into that position and given the ability to have choice and control over their lives and given the opportunities are going to be able to achieve at least one of those things. And so that's where we get to FII. So the Family Independence Initiative is a brainchild of Maurice Lynn Miller, who is the founder and CEO and is based in Oakland. And as he thought about it, and his work in social service for a long time, he saw that a lot of folks working together in community was the biggest impact, right? And then also he was challenged by then Mayor Jerry Brown in Oakland to be able to have a larger impact inside of communities and the bottom line. And he thought, well, yeah, put those same folks in the room and give them the resources directly, whether it's my mom or his mom or other moms and dads across the country. And so that's what we do. We started in Boston in 2010, and I went around all over Boston talking to families and saying, hey, would you mind sharing some information with us about your goals, who your household is, income, assets, and liabilities, and report back to us of any positive step that you take towards those goals on a monthly basis. And crazy enough, most people would be like, no. But, we said, we'll pay you for the data, we'll keep it protective, and little by little, people started signing up. And for them to be able to do so, they would self-organize a group of about 6 to 8 families and enroll with us. And so right away during those meetings, at the beginning, we would ask them to make a commitment for 2 years, meet monthly, and again, provide this data for us, which we would then pay them for, up to $2,400 a year. We started with 35 families, 152 adults and children in Boston. We have grown to 150 families, 600. And it is the same families that started with us that have grown our work because they're expanding on their own networks and bringing other folks who they can help resource themselves and find opportunities with that they're doing. But then we also put it back on them that they have to really take care of those folks and teach them about how to work with us and share with us. And so what typically happens inside of those groups is they share ideas, stories, or they find workshops, as well as maybe some sort of opportunity or conference that they want to be able to do together. Or they just talk and share a little bit about their problems. And the reason that we're doing this, right, is if you look up here again at this cycle of poverty chart, and you look on the right-hand side, 80% of all asset development in this country goes to the folks who are making $80,000 and above. And then on the left-hand side, you have a safety net that very much protects folks who need shelter, food, clothing, whatever their need is. But as folks stabilize and move forward, there really is very little incentive for them to be able to grow their wealth or to find their opportunities. And so you take a case like Isabel, who at one point in her life is in that point of emergency and crisis. She has 3 kids. She becomes homeless and is facing issues with the social justice system. And so that safety net catches her and stabilizes her. But then as she moves forward, she's actually disincentivized to be able to, after she stabilizes, move forward. And so she joined one of our groups, and actually she was brought into one of our groups. And the families inside of there began to find ways to be able to purchase home and extend their education. And she realized that she needed to do the same for her, right? So she enrolled in school every other weekend, found a second job, and actually got herself out. She has a community of support that is pushing her, but if anything happened, if one emergency happens, she's going to fall right back in. But she's taking the chance because she knows that it's worth it for her future. And so we have many stories like this, and I'll share a couple of more. But in every instance, once you put families in a position of control and choice, they're able to move forward. In the short time that we've been here, we've seen an increase in income of 13%, savings 225%. They've been able to reduce their debt by 25%. And again, these are just a little examples, and the easy ones that we can point to be able to have these families move forward. But there's an abundance of other examples that can happen. Actually, Lydia is part of a group of families in East Boston we found who already had been working inside a community. And they're part of a savings group that it's about 30 families big, and it's organized by about 4 or 5 women, and for each child that they have inside of their household, they put forth $10 a week into a savings group. And so then they use that money to be able to hold activities every other month that engages their young people to teach them games and a bit more about their own culture. Most of the folks are either from Colombia, Peru, or Guatemala. And then at the end of the year, they have a big party and sort of release the funds. Last year, they gave out over $40,000 back into their community, right? And they got 150% return on the money that the families invested. This is absent of any organization, any bank, any institution inside of East Boston. Their families are doing this on their own and pushing themselves forward. And actually, 2 days ago, a local foundation matched their efforts by giving them a grant directly of $20,000 so that they can continue to do that. So when you look at the graph behind me, why we continue to do this work is to say, hey, what if we started investing directly in families and people and matching their initiatives so that they can continue to move forward and build the middle class that way. And instead of penalizing folks, matching their effort at every step so that they can guide their own way out. And so, again, these are the families that I'm talking about and what they've been able to achieve. And they get a bigger return than any other investment banker or savings program inside of East Boston, and they do it and they control it themselves. So one very critical point in all of this is when we talk about safety net, that includes, again, we're not talking about touching that, but most programs and caseworkers that work with individuals who are already stabilized, again, sort of have the safety net mentality that address people in a very paternalistic way and says, well, only I have the solution, rather than saying that the families have the solution. And so again, at every step of the way, we're telling families, better than anybody that I can hire, better than any other program that I can create, I trust that you know the best way out for you. And just like my mom or Maurice's mom and most of the moms and dads in this room, I'm sure, you guys can figure this out. You just need to be able to find the opportunities and the right support and the right networks within your own natural community to be able to do so. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.